Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, and I'm a poet and I'm a teacher with Keep St. Pete Lit. And I am here today to give you some inspiration to get you writing. I am so excited about the Poetry Out Loud anthology. I can't wait to read your work. So I have 10 prompts for you today, and I'm going to hand out two. And each poem on the handout offers a prompt, a writing idea for you. And as a poet, um, I just want to say, like, please write whatever you're feeling, write what you're moved to write, um, and maybe you want to try one of these prompts as well. But when we think like, where do the poets get the inspiration? It's really when we're feeling these like really big emotions, and we need to craft it into a poem, make sense out of life, really. And also it's write what you know. Somebody once told me that when I was just starting out as a writer, and that advice has really been important for me. It's something I've really taken to heart, and I write a lot of stories, narrative poems, you could call them, and I just write about things that happen to me or things that I witness, happening, or my observations about things. And but when you write what you know, you're able to include all the juicy details, because nobody else can write them but you. So yeah. But of course, whatever makes sense to you, that's what you're gonna write. And I'm just here to offer some ideas. All right, so let's get started. The first is the I Am poem. And this is one of my favorites. And there are many different versions of the I Am poem. And I am going to give you three different versions. So on the handout, you will see a poem by Rupi Kaur from Milk and Honey. It's from this book. It's amazing. And her book is a New York Times bestselling book, and she has these drawings as well. And it's just really like personal poetry and really luscious. I would use the word luscious to describe her poems. And yes, so she has an I am not poem. And it's really a list of metaphors. And she compares herself to things. And then she says that I am not other things. And I'm just going to read you a few of my favorite lines from the poem. And you'll be reading all of these poems on your own. But I'm just going to read you some of my favorite lines as we go through the handout and the different prompts. Okay, so I love the line, I am not street meat, I am homemade jam. I think of like street meat as something that you can find really easily, everywhere, like on the street. When there's street meat, it's just easy to find, right? It's you might see like vendors all over selling their meat, right? But she says, I am homemade jam, something that takes time to make. Maybe it makes me think she's someone who takes time to get to know. So she has like every single metaphor. It's just so rich and carefully chosen. And that writing, so really powerful. So like a little later on, she says, I am not a hotel room, I am home. I am not the whiskey you want, I am the water you need. Ah, and so I include a link under the poem on the handout, so you can watch her read her poem. And beneath that, you will see another version of an I Am poem, and this one is from the source Read, Write, Think. Okay, and you will see the when you click on that link, when you go to that site, you'll see a like a template for writing the poem. And so there are a bunch of different lines. There are three stanzas, and the first line, like the first couple words of each line is already like done for you and you're just completing the lines. And so for like in the first stanza, it says I am, and then it prompts you to select two special characteristics. So for example, I am a worrier and a warrior, two characteristics, yeah. So I wonder is the second line, and then it says something of curiosity. I wonder if dolphins cry. And then it just continues. This is just, a suggestion. You can pick some of the lines, whatever makes sense to you. If you want to use a template, you can follow it strictly if you want. And I want to give you an example too of an I am poem done by a former student of mine, and her name is Althea. And this, I met her at the Virginia Leonard Community Center. So this is her I am poem, and she is a 7th grader. Well, she was when she wrote this. Okay. I am worth it yet insecure. I wonder why I'm unsure. I hear myself crying. I see myself trying. I want to be happy. I am worth it yet insecure. I pretend to be strong. I feel like I don't belong. I touch the ceiling yet can't reach the sky. I worry that I won't make it that high. I cry seeing other girls being confident because I'm not. I am worth it yet insecure. I understand I need to love myself. I say, how should that help? I dream about being great. I try to have faith. I hope to feel happy. I am worth it, yet insecure. And I just love how, personal it is, her piece, and, just how honest it is. And I really admire her bravery for writing about those feelings that some of us have trouble talking about, but just for writing them. So let's see, moving on to the third version and the last version of an I am poem that I want to introduce you to, and it is based off of this book that is a new book. It was published just last year, I believe in 2020. Okay, and it's I Am Every Good Thing by Derek Barnes and Gordon C. James. And in it, this young person is compared to all the best things, all these wonderful things. And so that's another idea for an I am poem, is to compare yourself to the best things, your favorite things. And I'll give you just a couple examples from the book. And I also love I am poems because somewhere along the way in a writing class, I was told to not use I am too much, or not to use the first person I too much, and to avoid using that too much. And so this is really just all about I am, that repeats throughout the piece. And yes, it's a celebration of you. And I love that. And do not refrain from it, or don't feel like you have to limit your the times that you say I am. Okay, so just here's a few lines from this book, and here we go. I am every good thing that makes the world go round, like gravity, or the glow of moonbeams over a field of brand new snow. I am good to the core, like the center of a cinnamon roll. Yeah, that good. So in my I am poem, I would definitely have the center of a Danish, because I love the middles of Danishes. I used to eat them, just the middles. So make the people I live with too happy. But okay, so that is the I am poem. And next we have the I am from poem. And this is based off of George Ella Leone's I Am From poem. And it's this whole movement almost. It's like so the I Am From poem is a pretty famous poem, and like people around the country are writing these poems. So just a quick backstory. After the 2016 election, George Ella Leone's created this project where people could submit their I Am From poems. And she did it because uh, she saw so much hate rhetoric coming from the White House, and this was her response to that. So to showcase diversity and the rich backgrounds that we come from. And it's just, you can go to iamfromproject.com, and I provide the website for you. And also, just above it, I provide the link where you can access the template and to write your own I Am From poem, and to also read George Ella Leone's I Am From poem. But you can go to the iamfromproject.com's website, and you can read all of these I Am From poems from people around the country. And you can also submit your own, and it will be displayed on the website. And it's just such a celebration of all of the different backgrounds. And when you hear I Am From, you probably think of a city and a state, but this is more than that. Okay, so this is about the sayings that you came from, the products that you came from, the nature that you came from. Maybe there was a special tree in your front yard. In my yard, it was a willow tree. So it's about the idea is that all of the things around us shape us. Okay, so so all of these things make us who we are, and it's the things that we grew up hearing, the things that we grew up seeing, all of that. And I am just going to just show you a couple examples from the template of what I mean. So you'll see in parentheses under the blank, it'll prompt you to pick here a specific ordinary item. I think I wrote an I Am poem, and I picked like drying racks for like dishes, and a product name. So there's a home description, and like a flower, so it goes through all of these different things that make up our lives. Okay, and check it out. It's a really cool poem, and I'm just going to read you an example from a former student, and her name is Jalen Brunson, and this is her I Am From poem, and this was done at the Academy Prep, okay, in St. Petersburg. And she wrote this when she was in 7th grade. I am from sky blue shirts, from Huggies and Justice. I am from the very light blue home, clean, loving, and great smelling. I am from a rose, a red, beautiful, good smelling rose. I'm from good cooks and a clean family, from Jasmine and Joe. I'm from the early sleepers and the early wakers, from think before you act and use good manners. I'm from Christians who talk about God every day and praise his name. I'm from the United States, Africa, Germany, and Puerto Rico, soul food, homemade chunky mashed potatoes from the messed up feet my grandmother suffered for, making homemade food for Sam's Club and still cooking for kids. The coming and going of my father, where pictures are stored in shoe boxes in the corner of my bedroom. I am from a family where memories and communication are important, because you never know when God and his son will want to take you home. Oh, so yeah, so check out the I am from poem. Okay, so next we've got the honest poem, and this is one by Rudy Francisco, and I provided the link where you can read the poem and also watch Rudy Francisco perform the poem. And this poem is one that I just discovered recently, and it completely blew me away. It's so beautiful, just dripping with poetry and honesty, and I felt like I was reading his diary. It was just so personal, and this is the kind of poem that I prefer. I love reading honest poetry. I love when the writer makes themselves vulnerable in the poem, and when it's just very real, and it's just stunning to the way it's crafted, and the lines are just so well done, so carefully crafted, just with so much skill. It's just so beautiful, and yeah. So please read My Honest Poem by Rudy Francisco, and I'm just going to give you a few lines from it so you can hear what I'm talking about. So he begins. I was born on June 27th. I hear that makes me a Leo. I have no idea what that actually means. And I just love that honesty right off the bat, Like, hey, I don't know what that means, but this is who I am. And yes, it's like I like poems that are like unapologetically just who you are, who the poet is. And then skip down a few lines. I'm still learning how to whisper. I'm often loud in places where I should be quiet. I'm often quiet in places where I should be loud. I just love how he captures being awkward, feeling awkward at times. Like how so many of us can relate to that, and it's all done in such an interesting way. Like he really captures so many emotions that I feel, and he does it in such a masterful way. So let's skip down a couple. I've been told I give really bad hugs. People say it feels like I'm trying to escape. It's probably because I am. And here's this one. I'm clumsy. Yesterday I tripped over my self-esteem, landed on my pride, and it shattered like an iPhone with a broken face. Whoa, this was just yeah. So that's the honest poem. So try writing a poem in that style if you wish. And there's also a template that you can find it as well if you want to use a template that is available online as well. So okay, so the next is an ode poem. And the ode poem is another really great one to write. And so Pablo Neruda has all of these ode poems. He has Ode to Broken Things, Ode to a Lemon, Ode to My Socks. And that's the example that I include in the handout. And what he does is he really writes in great detail about the objects that he's writing about. Like when he writes about the lemon and the socks, like he really like pays attention to that detail. And it also the objects takes them to a deeper space, like a more meaningful place. So it moves past the object into something bigger. And that's what poetry so often does, right? It says something about maybe our human experience, or, a comment on, something. And so, and what he does too with these ode poems is he makes the ordinary extraordinary. All right, so check out Pablo Neruda's ode poems. You can find them online very easily, and I'll also mention one of my favorite ode poems by Sharon Olds. It's called Ode to Dirt. And it's just amazing. It's like such a really great poem, and she's one of my favorite poets. Check that out. And I'll just read you the beginning of Ode to My Socks by Pablo Neruda. Uh, Madu Mori, and that's his friend, okay, brought me a pair of socks, which she knitted herself with her sheep herder's hands, 2 socks as soft as rabbits. I slipped my feet into them as the into 2 cases knitted with threads of twilight and goatskin. And wow, I will tell you that this poem has such a solid, gorgeous ending. So I hope you enjoy it. So that's your prompt number 4. Write an ode poem, celebrate the object that you're writing about, and make it lyrical and song-like if you wish, as ode poems often are. Okay, they like really capture that music. So okay, so let's move on to the color poem. All right, so the color poem, the one in the handout, is called Saturday Poem Reasons to Live the Color Red. And this is written by Cheryl St. Germain, and she's a fabulous poet, and she was my professor and mentor at Chatham University, where I went to grad school for poetry. And she's just like a wonderful poet and also a wonderful human. And this was published in the Pittsburgh Post Gazette, and I found it online. And so, a color poem. What is it? It's really basic. It's simple. But the lines aren't simple, okay? But what it is, it's just a list of different objects that are that color. All right, and like so, I'm gonna pick red. You'll hear the example of red, but when I think of red, right, I likely think of apples. So try not picking the first thing that comes to mind to write about that color. Try to do some digging. All right. So in it, you'll see an image by Cheryl St. Germain where she has pomegranates. It's like more surprising, less common, and that's what makes good poetry, right? The surprises, the lines that not everyone would think of. You know, we don't want a poem full of cliches, right? We want like original, fresh lines. And so, oh, and you can also not just think of when you're doing the color poem, okay? You can also think of not just like what, like your sight, like what you see as being that color, but maybe something sounds like a color, like for example, like sirens or screaming. To me, that is the color red. Okay, so think of that, or maybe it's taste. Maybe something tastes red, and it doesn't have to be red, but it's just something. You know, maybe your boyfriend's cologne, or somebody smells or like makes you think of the color red. So be creative, and I'm just going to read you a few lines from Cheryl's color poem. Okay, pomegranates. The seeds plumped open, their dark juice seeping into the butcher block. Sun-warmed tomatoes from your garden, thick steaks, rare and soft, their blood-speaking tongues in your mouth. I love how she goes to the innocent tomatoes in the garden to the steaks with the bloody steaks, and well, I just like that contrast, and like 2 very different foods. And then she says the color that couldn't be in your home when you lived with the man who hated red. And salmon when they are dying. So it's a great poem. And so yeah, there's another idea. writing a colored poem. And okay, so let's move on to the photograph poem, and this is by Rita Dove. And this is a pretty short poem, so I'll just go ahead and I'll just read this one. And you'll see that this poem is just about a photograph. And, and so that's an idea. Take a photograph. Maybe it's a photograph of when you were much younger, and try to like get into that time. Try to remember what you were feeling. And if you were too young in the photograph and you don't remember, maybe you'll make it up. So here we go. 5th grade autobiography by Rita Dove. And you'll see how she uses such beautiful descriptive details to describe this scene of the photograph. I was 4 in this photograph fishing with my grandparents at a lake in Michigan. My brother squats in poison ivy. His Davy Crockett cap sits squared on his head so the raccoon tail flounces down the back of his sailor suit. My father sits to the far right in a folding chair, and I know his left hand is on the tobacco in his pants pocket because I used to wrap it for him every Christmas. Grandmother's hips bulge from the brush. She's leaning into the ice chest, sun through the trees, printing her dress with soft, luminous paws. I am staring jealously at my brother the day before he rode his first horse alone. I was strapped in a basket behind my grandfather. He smelled of lemons. He's died, but I remember his hands. Ooh, okay, so that is Rita Dove's photograph poem. Okay, and next we have a small moment poem, I'll call it. So poems don't have to be about all major events. They can be about just something somebody said, something small. It could be about a kid that, smiled at you, or just, it could be about something really, a small moment, and it doesn't have to be about, a life-changing event. So I have a poem by Ted Kruser titled Tattoo in the handout for you. And it's a lovely little poem, and you'll see that it's about finding, just seeing a really old tattoo, an old man with a tattoo that's not in the best shape, we'll say, okay? He says it looks like a bruise. It's just a bruise on a bony old shoulder. And it seems like the speaker in the poem is even maybe judging this old man too, and making a lot of assumptions about him. But it's a really, really rich, small poem that really gets us into that scene of that old man. And so next we have a big moment poem, and this one is called The Race by Cheryl Olds. So this happens to be about her father dying, and she's at the airport and her plane gets canceled, so she has to figure out a way to get to see her father, before he dies, because he's not going to live through the night. So she's racing because she hears another flight leaves in like 7 minutes. So she has to hurry. And so she really creates this sense of urgency, like right in the first couple lines of the poem. When I got to the airport, I rushed up to the desk, bought a ticket. 10 minutes later, they told me the flight was canceled. The doctors had said my father would not live through the night, and the flight was canceled. A young man with a dark brown mustache told me another airline had a nonstop leaving in 7 minutes. So then it goes on and on, flying through the airport. She makes it to see her father, and there's this just quiet moment at the end. So it's, and it just works so well in contrast with the urgency, like throughout the rest of the poem. So at the end, we get this quiet moment where she's with her father. I walked into his room and watched his chest rise slowly and sink again. All night, I watched him breathe. So it's just really one of her like really popular poems. And so yeah, you can write about a really big event, a life-changing event. It doesn't have to be something sad like loss. It could be about anything, some current event. It could be about like an award you won, something, yeah. So whatever you're feeling moved to write. Okay. So we've got two more, and the next is a list poem. And where is it? It's right. So the list poem is that I have on the handout is How to Let Go of a Grown Daughter by Lynn Shashelski. And so she has a list of ways to ways for her to get over, or not to get over, to let go of a grown daughter, to give her grown daughter like that distance. Okay, so it's and she numbers the lines, and that's a technique that is common in list poems, but you don't have to. So maybe you'll have your own How to Let Go of blank, poem as a list poem. There are many different versions of a list poem. Maybe you want to have a reasons list poem. Kwame Alexander has a list poem titled Reasons I Have Locks. And it's like, I think he compares them to a crown. And it's and Lucille Clifton has a list poem titled What the Mirror Said. And it's just a list of what the mirror said. And it begins, listen, you a city, you a wonder, or no, listen, you a wonder, you a city of a woman, you got a geography of your own, and it just like continues. So yeah, maybe you'll have a reasons list poem like Kwame Alexander, or a how-to, or whatever it is, but poems can just be lists. And that's important to know, because sometimes we think that poems are just always super like going to be really have a complex structure, like make this elaborate puzzle. Sometimes it's just a list, and that is just so satisfying and so poetic. All right, so, and it's always about what you do with your your lines, how you, when you're writing the poem or when you're revising the poem, try to find the most powerful line or poem, like locate that line, and then try to make the other ones just as powerful. And of course, there are always going to be the ones that stand out the most, but that's good advice that one of my first mentor writers gave me. So lastly, we have the narrative poem, and I provide a narrative poem example in the handout, and it's titled A Bad Day at School by Gabe and Dory Jones. And it's about it's a really heartbreaking story about a kid. I'll go ahead and read it. So I had a bad day at school, Alma. A kid called me a dirty Mexican. When I answered him in Spanish, the teacher hit my knuckles with a ruler. I heard the whoosh of air. I braced for pain. There was a crack and my knuckles stung. No Spanish was all the teacher said. I got into a fight with a big kid. He tripped me. He made fun of me. The teacher broke us up. As I walked alone to the office, I spat to get the taste of dirt out of my mouth. That kid tripped me. Why wasn't he punished? Do I have to go to school tomorrow? So such a heartbreaking story about bullying and racism and just yeah. So write your story. Maybe somebody like said something that really like hurt you and stuck with you, and that can be a story. And a narrative poem can be about any story, right? Just anything that tells a story. Maybe it's about like your brother's birthday party, and something about it like took you, something about the way your brother smiled like took you uh to another place, and so it, whatever it is that you're feeling moved to write, whatever story that you feel most called to tell, that's what you're meant to do. Okay, that's what you're meant to write. Maybe there's a poem or an idea or something that happened that won't leave you alone. Try writing that poem. So wow, well, I really enjoyed putting these prompts together for you, and I hope you'll try some of them. And I really look forward to reading your work. All right, well, happy writing. I will turn the video off now. Okay.